Rose was the pen. The pen. When I mean a pen, he wrote the songs to so many songs that y'all are singing today that he's not on them. He's not on them. They're done by superstars.
And I won't speak on
And we won't speak and we won't speak on them because we both have done such a thing.
No face, no man.
Hip-hop has always thrived on controversy, and when whispers start floating about ghostwriting, the culture listens. The latest rumor shaking the industry is wild. People are claiming that none other than Lil Wayne, one of the greatest rappers alive, might have been secretly ghostwriting for his protege, Drake, during the early rise of Drizzy's career. That idea alone has the streets buzzing because it flips the whole story we've been told about how Drake came up. Normally, the narrative is simple. Wayne discovered Drake, signed him to Young Money, and gave him a platform. But now, with these new claims surfacing, the question hanging in the air is, did Wayne do more than just put Drake on? Did he actually pen some of the lyrics that shot him into stardom? That's a bombshell because in hip-hop, your pen game is your reputation. And if it turns out that Drake's early success was powered by Wayne's pen, that changes the way a lot of fans will look at both their legacies. This whole storm kicked off when Lil Novi, Wayne's son, dropped a comment that set social media on fire. Novi claimed straight up that his father wrote most of Drake's lyrics when Drake was first coming up.
Who's better, Lil Wayne or Drake?
Lil Wayne. My dad wrote most of the shit, so I mean, on God, like if it wasn't for my pops, then it wouldn't be no Drake, like for real. I mean, it probably would be a Drake, but he wouldn't be where he at now.
No, that's completely.
Now, people can brush off internet chatter all day, but when it comes from family, from Wayne's own bloodline, folks pay attention. Novi didn't hold back, and that sparked a frenzy. Blogs started running headlines, fans started arguing, and suddenly one of the most successful partnerships in hip-hop history is being dissected like never before. Everyone wants to know, was Drake really writing his own bars back in the day, or was he being groomed and scripted by Weezy F Baby himself? We gotta remember, Wayne wasn't just a label boss to Drake, he was his mentor, his big homie in the game. Wayne discovered him when nobody else saw the vision, and from the beginning, he made it clear he believed in Drake's potential. But mentorship in hip-hop can get blurry. Sometimes the big homie coaches you, gives you lines, maybe even rewrites a hook, and before you know it, the line between advice and ghostwriting starts disappearing. Wayne is a lyrical monster, a man known for flooding the game with mixtapes, punchlines, metaphors, and non-stop bars. For him to lend some of that creativity to Drake wouldn't be shocking, but for Novi to say Wayne was writing most of it, that paints a whole different picture. And let's be real, this isn't the first time ghostwriting has been attached to Drake's name. Back in 2015, the Meek Mill feud exploded over Quentin Miller, allegedly helping Drake with some reference tracks. That battle alone put a permanent asterisk on Drake's reputation as a pure lyricist. But if Wayne really was ghostwriting, then Drake's whole image as a self-made lyrical star takes another hit. Because we're not talking about an unknown underground writer this time. We're talking about Lil Wayne, a man who was already a living legend by the time Drake dropped So Far Gone. Imagine the weight of that. If it's true, Drake might not just be Wayne's protege, he could actually be Wayne's creation in more ways than one. Fans are split though, because Drake has always shown flashes of his own pen game. Songs like The Calm or Do Not Disturb showcase introspective bars that feel personal and authentic.
I got your dream girl riding in your dream. Got your dream girl riding in your dream. She wants me, she wants me, she wants me, she wants me. Tell me what you don't see. Tell me what you don't see.
The kind of writing you wouldn't expect someone else to hand over. But then Novi's comments reopened the conversation. Could Wayne have been the hidden hand behind some of the more polished, radio-friendly, chart-topping hits? That's where the debate gets hot. Hip-hop heads are combing through old lyrics, old interviews, old credits, trying to piece together if Wayne's style bleeds into Drake's early catalog. And honestly, when you listen closely, there are moments where Drake's delivery and wordplay sound suspiciously Wayne-like. Could that be coincidence, influence, or is Novi telling us something the industry's been hiding for years? The tricky part is the industry thrives on keeping these kinds of secrets. Ghostwriting isn't just about who wrote what, it's about protecting brands, protecting images, and keeping money flowing. If the world knew Wayne was penning Drake's hits, it might have changed how the label marketed him, how fans connected with him, and how his brand was built. So if there's truth here, it makes sense why nobody ever put it on paper officially. Instead, it would be one of those industry whispers Everyone behind the scenes knows, but the public is kept in the dark. That's why Novi's little bombshell feels so dangerous. He cracked open a door that executives probably wanted sealed shut forever. And let's not act like Wayne couldn't pull it off. He was in his prime during Drake's early run. This was the Carter III and IV era, where Wayne was dominating everything. The man was a workhorse, spitting verses nonstop, flooding mixtapes, hopping on features, and building Young Money into a powerhouse. If there was ever a time Wayne had the juice to ghostwrite for someone, that was it. His brain was a machine and his pen was unstoppable. If he decided to feed Drake lines, hooks, or even full verses, nobody would have questioned it because Wayne was already dropping so much heat on his own. And who better to script for Drake than the man who gave him the cosign that made his career possible? Now fans are questioning not just the past, but also the dynamics of Wayne and Drake's relationship. Was Drake being molded to carry Wayne's legacy forward? Was Wayne setting him up as the next face of hip-hop by literally giving him the blueprint, word for word? Or was it just a mentor giving occasional gems that Novi exaggerated into something bigger? That's the million-dollar question. Whatever the case, the whispers have reignited the ghostwriting debate and put Drake back under the microscope, proving once again that in hip-hop, your pen matters more than anything else. And when it comes to the bond between Lil Wayne and Drake, this might just be the messiest chapter yet. Once Lil Novi's words hit the internet, the debate exploded like gasoline on fire. Fans, bloggers, and even industry insiders couldn't resist jumping into the conversation because this wasn't just a small rumor. It was a direct shot at Drake's credibility. In hip-hop, being accused of ghostwriting can stain your reputation forever, and Drake already had his scars from the Quentin Miller situation. But the thought of Lil Wayne, his own mentor and boss, being the one behind the curtain, that raised the stakes way higher. People started pulling up old interviews, dissecting Wayne and Drake's past comments, trying to connect dots that maybe they missed years ago. Suddenly, fans were revisiting tracks like Successful, Best I Ever Had, and even the early Young Money collabs, asking themselves, do these sound like Wayne's pen dressed up in Drake's voice? What really adds spice to this is the undeniable similarities between their styles back then. Listen to Wayne in his prime spitting clever metaphors with a playful bounce, then line it up with Drake's early cadence. The DNA is all over it. Drake's flow on certain tracks felt like it was dipped straight out of Wayne's pot. Of course, that could just be influence. Drake was learning under Wayne, soaking up the game, and naturally, some of that flavor was bound to rub off. But when you mix in Novi's statement, it pushes people to think maybe it wasn't just influence. Maybe Wayne was literally passing Drake the torch line by line. And let's be real, it wouldn't be unheard of. Plenty of proteges have been polished by their mentors behind closed doors before they could fully stand on their own feet in the industry. But here's where it gets tricky. If Wayne really was ghostwriting for Drake, why would it stay buried for so long? Part of it comes down to image. Drake was marketed as this once-in-a-generation artist who could rap, sing, and blend styles in a way no one else could. His pen game was always part of the package. If the truth ever came out that Wayne was writing his early hits, that illusion would have cracked wide open, and the whole machine behind it might have stumbled. Record labels invest millions in building an image, and if you strip away the idea that Drake was this self-contained talent, it risks the brand collapsing. That's why, if there's truth in what Novi said, it makes perfect sense that it never got documented in official credits. That's how the industry protects its stars: silence, contracts, and closed-door agreements that never see daylight. Of course, we also got to consider Novi himself. Being Wayne's son, he has access to the inside stories most of us will never hear. But at the same time, he's not Wayne. His perspective could be colored by personal opinions, family pride, or even frustration. Maybe he exaggerated, or maybe he truly believes his dad deserves more credit than he's getting. Still, even with that possibility, fans can't ignore that the claim hit a nerve. The idea that Drake's success might be built on Wayne's hidden pen scratches at hip-hop's core values: authenticity, originality, and raw talent. It forces everyone to ask uncomfortable questions, not just about Drake, but about the culture as a whole. And speaking of culture, ghostwriting has always been a messy subject in rap. In pop music, it's normal. Artists have teams of writers cooking up hits. But in hip-hop, it's different. Your lyrics are your story, your proof of authenticity. If someone else writes for you, it's like you're wearing a mask, pretending to be something you're not. That's why Drake's name keeps getting dragged into these conversations. Every time he climbs higher, the whispers follow him. Did he really write that? With Wayne's name now being thrown into the mix, it feels like the debate has entered a whole new chapter. Because Wayne isn't just some ghostwriter for hire. He's one of the greatest rappers of all time. If he really ghost wrote for Drake, some fans would see it as mentorship while others would see it as fraud. Another angle fans can't ignore is the business strategy. Think about it. Wayne was at the top of the game, but no king stays on the throne forever. What better way to secure his empire than by building up a new superstar in his own image? By feeding Drake hits, Wayne could make sure Young Money stayed dominant even when his own run slowed down. Drake, in turn, became the face of a new generation, carrying Wayne's torch and keeping the dynasty alive. If Wayne really did script some of those early bangers, it might not have been just about boosting Drake. It could have been about preserving Young Money's future. That's chess, not checkers. At the same time, there are hardcore Drake fans who push back against all of this. They argue Drake has proven himself countless times over the years with music that feels way too personal and introspective for someone else to have written. Tracks where he spills about heartbreak, family struggles, or industry politics hit too raw to be anyone else's words. These fans say the ghostwriting accusations are just people trying to tear him down because he's at the top. They point out that Drake's consistency over the last decade speaks for itself. You don't stay on top of the charts this long without serious talent of your own. But whether you defend Drake or doubt him, there's no denying that Wayne's shadow looms large over his career. And Novi's comments just gave that shadow a whole new shape. So now, the hip-hop world is caught in the middle. On one side, you've got the believers who think Wayne was pulling strings and crafting bars behind the scenes. On the other, you've got the defenders saying Drake's pen is real and Wayne's influence doesn't mean ghostwriting. The truth probably sits somewhere between, but in the world of hip-hop, perception is everything. And right now, the perception is messy because even the possibility of Wayne being Drake's ghostwriter sends shockwaves through the culture. As the dust keeps swirling around these ghostwriting claims, one thing is clear. This isn't just about Drake and Wayne anymore. It's about the way hip-hop views authenticity, the way the industry builds its stars, and the way fans demand transparency from the artists they idolize. When Lil Novi put those words out there, saying his dad wrote most of Drake's lyrics, he didn't just stir up family drama. He lit up a cultural debate that touches every corner of rap. Because if the biggest star of the last decade might not have been writing all his bars, it makes people wonder how much of what they're hearing from their favorite rappers is real. Hip-hop has always carried itself like a genre where the truth matters, where every lyric is supposed to come straight from the artist's own pen, and that's why this rumor hit so hard. It feels like it threatens the very foundation of what rap is built on. But let's break it down. If Wayne really was ghostwriting for Drake, what does that actually mean? On one hand, it could be seen as a blessing. Drake came into the game with a cheat code. He had a master of the craft coaching him, maybe even handing him the blueprint. That gave him an edge over other rookies trying to figure it out alone. It could explain why Drake's come-up felt so flawless, why his early records didn't stumble the way most new artists' projects do. With Wayne behind the curtain, the learning curve was practically erased. That's the upside, but the downside, it muddies the waters of Drake's legacy. Because when people look back, they won't just remember his chart dominance. They'll ask, how much of that was really him? And that question could stick to Drake's name forever, even if no hard proof ever surfaces. On the flip side, this could also shine a different kind of light on Wayne. If it's true, it shows the lengths he went to build his label and his artists. Wayne didn't just sign Drake and Nicki Minaj. He shaped them, guided them, and possibly even gave them pieces of himself through the music. That's legendary in its own right. Some fans might see it not as ghostwriting, but as Wayne extending his legacy through his proteges. Think of it like a dynasty in sports. The coach trains the players, but the fingerprints of that coach live on in every championship they win. If Wayne really put pen to paper for Drake, then Drake's wins are also Wayne's wins, and that makes Wayne's place in history even bigger. Still, there's no denying the impact on Drake's reputation. The ghostwriting accusations are like a shadow that follows him everywhere. He's been able to dodge it in the past, surviving the Meek Mill feud and still becoming one of the biggest rappers alive. But this is different. This isn't an underground writer with leaked reference tracks. This is Lil Wayne, a global superstar, a man whose name carries massive weight in the culture. Having his son say Wayne was behind Drake's lyrics gives the rumor a kind of credibility it never had before. Even without evidence, it plants doubt. And in the court of public opinion, doubt can be deadly. Fans don't always need proof. Once the seed is planted, it grows, and it changes how people look at you forever. The timing of these claims also plays a role. Drake is in a space where he's no longer the hungry rookie. He's the seasoned veteran, the face of an era. But with that comes criticism because fans start comparing him to younger, fresher artists and questioning whether he still deserves the crown. Add in rumors like this, and suddenly the foundation of his dominance starts to crack. That's why this story has legs. It fits into the larger narrative of people questioning Drake's place in hip-hop history. Is he really one of the greatest to ever do it, or is he just the best product of smart marketing and powerful mentorship? That's the argument fans are wrestling with right now. Of course, Drake's camp hasn't addressed the claim directly, and Wayne himself has stayed silent. That silence is loud. Some people take it as proof that there's something to hide. Others see it as a refusal to dignify a baseless rumor. Either way, it leaves room for speculation, and speculation is where conspiracy theories thrive. The longer Wayne and Drake say nothing, the more people fill in the blanks themselves, and usually they fill them in with the most dramatic version possible. In a world where perception matters as much as reality, that silence could be just as damaging as any confession. But here's the kicker. Even with all the drama, Drake's success is undeniable. Ghostwriter or not, the man has ruled the charts for over a decade, broken records left and right, and built a career most rappers can only dream of. That's why some fans shrug at the rumors. They say, so what if Wayne helped him? He still delivered. Others argue that using a ghostwriter, especially Wayne, doesn't take away from Drake's achievements, it just makes them more complicated. It's a debate with no easy answer because it all depends on how you value authenticity versus results. And in hip-hop, those values are constantly clashing. At the end of the day, this whole situation shows just how much influence Lil Wayne has had, not just on Drake, but on the culture as a whole. Whether or not he wrote those lyrics, his mentorship and cosign changed the course of hip-hop history. Without Wayne, there might not even be a Drake at the level we know today. But the rumor lingers, and it leaves fans with a choice. Do they believe Drake's pen was always his own? Or do they accept that the greatest rapper of this generation might have had the ultimate ghost in the machine guiding him every step of the way? One thing's for sure, the conversation isn't dying anytime soon because hip-hop loves secrets, and this one might be the juiciest yet.